Hey everybody, we're live here. My name is Paul Esden Jr., aka Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. We're live here from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And a live in-person guest, he's here. He is actually here. That is Jake Asman. We're here together live from the Pro Football Hall of Fame, doing a lot of fun stuff together. Jake, thanks for taking the time, man.
My pleasure, Paul. I mean, does it get better than this, huh? Canton, Ohio, Revis, Klecko, Jets in the Hall of Fame game. It's been a fun weekend so far, and I can't wait for tomorrow.
Well, before we get to all the football and all that, what about the experience? Coming here, being with the Jet fans, they've been coming up to you, I've been hearing you. Jake Asman, is that Jake Asman over there? They've been there all over the place.
I love the guy that came up to you, by the way. He was like, I know you from Twitter. I was like, yeah, I know him from Twitter too.
Yeah, and like I said, that's what I want on my gravestone. Twitter guy. I saw that guy from Twitter. That works for me. It's been beautiful. What about that experience of Jet fans coming up to you? I mean, it's for me, it's humbling. It's always so cool that they think we just matter a little eon. It's just great to be fully vested here in Jets Nation.
Yeah, it's funny, man. It's definitely surreal. It's humbling, as you said. Jet fans are the best, man. And like what we do on our channels every day, like the reason why we're able to do it is because people want to tune in and talk Jets. So you never forget that. And there's so many Jet fans that made this trip. There's a couple in front of us right now that love this team. So it's an exciting time to be a fan of the Jets, and you're seeing that energy all weekend.
I know some people make fun of the Hall of Fame game. They don't count it as a real thing. I don't know. To me, that's always been the inaugural start to football. Obviously, it won't be anything like it is for September 11th, Monday Night Football, the Buffalo Bills. But what you make of the atmosphere, the Jet fans here, and then, of course, your seat, you're kind of strolling. You're on the field, a little bit in the press box. Jake Asman likes to dabble.
Yeah, the vibes are good, man. I mean, look, there's a ton of Browns fans here, and rightfully so. I mean, it's an easy trip for them to make here to Canton, but the Jet fan is very well represented. You know, obviously the Browns have the most fans because of the location and Joe Thomas and whatnot, but out of all the other Hall of Fame fan bases, right, that have players going in that are and their fan bases that are representing them, I mean, the Jets are just dominating, man. Like, just so many fans here. We got our top fans in charge here. Like, it takes the real diehards to make the trip to a place like Canton, Ohio, middle of the country, here in summer. Like, this is some people's summer vacation, like their big trip, and it just shows you the passion and the loyalty you have in this fan base.
Yeah, again, this is going to be amazing. It's the first of 4 preseason games for the New York Jets. The first one's in the books. Who's a player, or maybe even beyond a player, a theme, something of some nature in your mind that stood out from this first Jets-Browns preseason opener?
Well, I'll give you a player, and then I'll give you a theme. The player to me was Joe Tippmann, and last night on my show, I couldn't, articulate or accurately talk about what we saw from Tippmann because you really got to watch it back. You got to watch the film to understand how a lineman is playing, unless you're like zeroing in on that play, which, sure, to be honest, I wasn't, because I was watching the quarterbacks. I was watching Zach Wilson. I was watching Strebler at the end. That was tough. I was watching, Jason Brownlee. Like, there were other, like, quote unquote, sexier storylines. But the fact that we didn't hear Tippmann's name called once, no one highlighted it on Twitter, no one was criticizing him. That's a good sign when you don't hear a center's name. I mean, Jet fans know all about great center play. We're here at the Hall of Fame. Kevin Wisen and Nick Mangold should be here one day. So, Tippmann, I thought, was really good on flying under the radar. Will McDonald was great, if you want to name another player. So, the Jet fans panicking about the rookie class. Let's take a deep breath. I thought both players played very well last night. And then the theme I was watching is the offensive line and the protection. And it seems like when Becton was out there, he did a good job. Seems like overall, Zach had a clean pocket when he was out there for his drive. So I thought the protection, as far as in the passing game, was very good for the most part. Even Strebler had time at the end. He just wasn't accurate. There were guys open. I was like, he's open, and he's airmailing throws. So I don't need to pick on Chris Strebler. He is what he is. But I thought the protection as a whole was pretty good last night.
How concerned are you with the offensive line? That seems to be the big question nationally. With if people are criticizing the Jets, if people believe the Jets are not going to get where they want to get, most people commonly point to the offensive line. At this point here in early August, we're here live at the Hall of Fame. What's your concern level?
Yeah, the offensive line is definitely a concern because that's like the one thing that could derail a season, as we have seen. That being said, I will push back on those who say the line is just terrible. I think they were bad last year because they were decimated by injuries. Were they terrible when they got out to a 6-3 start? No, the line was awful when ABT got hurt, when the shoulder injury for Dwayne Brown worsened, when Laken Tomlinson just didn't play well. I expect a bounce back here from him. Like, you had so many things that went wrong. You lost both your starting tackles, right? Because George Fant was going to start for this team a year ago, and he got hurt, and he was banged up by the time he came back. So I think when you factor in the injuries and just everything that transpired last year, if they just get a little more injury luck, they should be in a better shape. And I truly think Douglas and our guy Rex Hogan, who we were chatting with in the press box last night at halftime, I think they did a much better job equipping this team to handle potential injuries. I think Billy Turner and Wes Schweitzer, I think Max Mitchell now another year of development. Like, I think they have some depth in that offensive line room that they didn't have last season.
Again, we are live here from the Hall of Fame. There you go. The stadium's right behind us here. Paul Esden Jr., make sure you guys are liking the video, hitting subscribe down below, and also check through. Yeah, there you go. As Green Bean. Milk them. Milk those udders, baby. And make sure you send all that action in here on the program. Again, we're going to be live a little bit later today at the Belden location of the Jersey Sports Bar and Grill, meeting a bunch of you Jet fans. Again, if you guys are out there, if you're anywhere, make sure you come there. It'll be a big meetup, 8 o'clock tonight here on Friday. Before the enshrinement ceremonies tomorrow. This may sound like a dumb question, maybe an easy question, but maybe there's some other name that pops out beyond the obvious. Who's going to be the biggest beneficiary of Aaron Rodgers being here on the New York Jets?
Jet fans.
Yeah, there you go.
Jet fans will actually watch what all-time great quarterback play is supposed to look like. It is us. It is us. It is us fans. Who's going to benefit? I mean, really everyone benefits, both sides of the ball. I mean, is it fair to say Garrett Wilson benefits? I mean, I know he was Rookie of the Year last year, but man, like he put up 1,100 yards with Flacco, Mike White, and 9 games of Zach Wilson. Garrett Wilson, as Aaron Rodgers once again talked about, doubled down, tripled down, emphasized even more last night when he was interviewed on the NBC broadcast. Garrett Wilson's the closest thing to Devontae Adams Aaron Rodgers has ever seen.
Well, you brought up Devontae Adams. I noticed, I think it was the Garrett Wilson toe graze touchdown, back of the end zone. Devontae seemed like, ooh, that looks fun over there. That may be spicy. Aaron Rodgers created some cap space that, hey, if anyone randomly becomes available, I don't know, at the trade deadline, like a team underperforms and they got a really good player on them, I don't know. Could there be something there, Mr. Jake Asman? I think that's a question.
Look, there certainly could be. I mean, look, if the Raiders are god-awful and they fall out of it and Devontae's disgruntled, could he request a trade? Could he reach out and want to, come back to the Jets? Could they make something like that happen? Is it possible? Yeah, I think it's possible. And let's not be naive here. When Rodgers is giving back $35 million and he's now got a lower cap hit than Zach Wilson, part of the appeal is to be able to make a splash move like that if they become a possible splash move. So I could see it. I don't think it's as crazy as maybe it once sounded like, because Rodgers' actions speak louder than potential rumors. Giving back $35 million and creating that type of cap space, that gives the Jets now this 2-year window where essentially, and I've tried to make this comparison on my show, Paul, essentially Aaron Rodgers is now operating on a rookie contract scale for the next 2 years. And we know in sports, perhaps the greatest advantage in sports is a quarterback on a rookie deal. How about a 4-time MVP, one of the greats of all time, on a rookie deal for the next 2 years?
Expanding out that question, I force-fed you Devontae Adams. Is there another name, either now, because, again, people are talking Dalvin Cook, or even later, perhaps, a name that could stand out of whether a team falls apart or even in general just a player that could become available? Are there names you're trying to pay attention to? Because I feel like I am. As soon as Aaron Rodgers made that pay cut, I'm really going – my imagination is going to different places on who that could be and what position potentially it could be.
Yeah, I think part of it is also like, do the Jets have any injuries when we get to the trade deadline? Sure. Like, remember, you look at Von Miller getting moved a couple of years ago. Like, he wasn't supposed to be moved. Denver kind of fell out of it. Like, which teams are supposed to be good that falls out of it? Is there a name we're not thinking of? I mean, besides Devontae, I think Mike Evans is a popular name, right? He's been so good with Tampa. I don't think the Bucs are going to be any good. We'll actually see them up close when they scrimmage the Jets and then they play in the preseason. So that's certainly a name to watch, but I think it's tough this time of year to predict because, last year, no one thought the Giants were going to be good. No one thought the Seahawks were going to be good, and they were playoff teams last year. So there's always the surprise teams. There's always teams that are supposed to be good, like Denver last year, that ends up being terrible. So I think until we get an idea on how the season actually starts to unfold, you might not truly know who's going to be available, who's not going to be available.
Again, we're speaking with Jake Asman here. Make sure you hit him up, Jake Asman, on the old YouTube and also on all social media for that matter. You mentioned surprises. Is there a Jets player that maybe we're not talking about that we will be talking about here in a handful of weeks because they will surprise? It doesn't have to be a young player. It could be any kind of player.
I think Aaron Rodgers is good, Paul.
Yeah.
I think he's going to surprise us.
Hashtag analysis.
He's still damn good at playing the position at a high level. Is there a guy that's flying under the radar that could surprise?
Yeah.
It's tough. I mean, would Izzy be a big surprise? Like, I guess it depends how you view the running back situation. Sure. I thought he looked good last night, so that was encouraging. I thought Carter Warren, watching him a little bit, I thought he played pretty – I got to go back and watch it again, but I thought that was a nice sign that he didn't look overwhelmed from what I saw kind of watching him last night, so that was something that stood out. And, maybe this is just surprising as a fan. How nice is it to have a kicking game? Greg the Leg, Morstead, they were phenomenal last night. That was awesome.
I'm so glad you brought that up because that's somewhere where I wanted to go. It's just Legatron was like automatic. When he lined up for those 3 kicks, he ended up making 2 from 50 plus, then a third one from 44 plus. there was no hesitation in my mind. There's no cringing. There's no hiding behind fingers. Like, I felt pretty confident that he was going to be making all those. And Thomas Morstead, for that point, he was launching 50-yard bombs like nobody's business. And man, that's a position that the Jets have almost had to sacrifice, like a ritual animal sacrifice on a year-to-year basis, that the other team's going to be better than us in those categories. I don't think so this year.
Oh, it has been an abomination, the kicking game. And the fact that you have Greg the Leg and you bring him back and he's looked so good so far, awesome. And then Morstead never should have been cut in the first place. I know they invested a lot in Brady Mann, and I was talking about this with a friend last night. I don't understand how Brady Mann, because I watched him a lot at A&M. Like, he was like whatever the punter award is. He was the best punter in college football that year. The Jets
Ray Guy. That's right.
Ray Guy award. Thank you. So to see him just fall off, I mean, it was just like this team lost too many games because of a punter last year. It's just a joke. That can't happen on a team that's trying to win a division, trying to go deep into the playoffs. So to have seemingly the kicking game on both aspects solidified, it's a huge sigh of relief if you're a Jet fan.
Yeah, a couple other nuggets before we get you out of here, Jake, because it is hot as hell out here.
Yeah, we got to start drinking, Paul. I mean, we got the meet up tonight, but I got to get some food in me. We got the Jet fans around here watching us do this thing, so I'm excited, man.
Yeah, so we're going to need some pregame action. But before we get there, another interesting sign is something that doesn't happen. So in the preseason game, we saw several players inactive. One of them, Tony Adams.
Yeah.
Last year, UDFA, you make the roster this year. I'm not playing in this game, and it's not his call. Obviously, it's the team's, but that's how much they apparently feel about him.
Great point. Yeah, Tony Adams not even playing. It tells you how strongly they believe he's their guy at safety. And, when they sign Adrian Amos, it's like, all right, well, Amos is the starter. Tony Adams is starting for this team right now. Now, I think Amos will have a role on the team, obviously. He'll play. He's a veteran, a good leader. He has intangibles that can help the entire team. But Tony Adams is legit based on everything. Even talking to some people last night, asking some guys around the team who stood out. Tony Adams was one of the names everyone talks about, so that's encouraging to see. And then, how about another name, Jeremy Ruckert? I really thought I'm on the field last night. I see Ruckert and Tyler Conklin chopping it up, and I'm thinking to myself, man, like I know Conklin's not playing, I know CJ Uzama's not going to play, but you would think Ruckert, who obviously missed some time last year and started to get some playing time towards the end of the year, you'd think maybe they'd want to get him out there, get him some reps. The fact that they had him in bubble wrap last night, didn't play him in the game, tells you that he's already done enough in the eyes of the coaching staff to really play a role in this team. So you have your two starting tight ends, we think, in Uzama and Conklin. But Jeremy Ruckert, I don't know if he's a starter necessarily, Paul, but he's going to play. He's going to get some reps with the ones this year. And I think the fact that he wasn't out there is a sign that that's actually going to happen.
Great follow-up, but where? That's my question. Where's the plan? Because I think Jet fans have speculated and theorized that he could be the Nick Bodden fullback everything guy for the team. But, with those two starting tight ends, is it a slow, methodical thing where somewhere in the middle of the season he takes the job from one of those guys because he's talented? He's obviously the Jets fan. Local story is amazing. The number 101 overall pick. But it's just hard for me to struggle to see how does that work? How is he on the field?
Is there an injury that could happen that could get him on the field? I mean, that's one way. Does he just get better than Conklin or Uzama by the time we go forward? I mean, Jeremy Ruckert's a player, man. Like, he was good at Ohio State, but he wasn't featured in their offense because you had the just litany of talented receivers on the outside that Fields and Stroud are throwing the rock to. But, Jeremy Ruckert's a guy who I think has tremendous upside. And now, tight end, they say, is a position where maybe it takes a year or so to kind of learn the offense, because not only do you have to learn the pass patterns, you got to learn how to block. And that's a big part of that position. So sometimes it takes some time. Now maybe Jeremy Ruckert, as the season progresses, they start to increase his role, because he might honestly be, Paul, their best red zone option at tight end. And if Rodgers likes him, and we saw that highlight the other day,
I was just about to say, come on,
that Rodgers made, that to me is a possibility where we could see Ruckert involved in the offensive. Hackett's a genius as far as scheming up red zone plays. Maybe Ruckert's the red zone guy for this offense.
Yeah, man, if Aaron Rodgers, Hackett, and these guys would have been here last year, I wonder how many points I would have scored in that Vikings game instead of 1,000 field goals. That could have been something else entirely. Jumping back to safety for a second, when Chuck Clark goes down, they got him for a bag of Doritos. He looked like he was going to be good. He goes down, and it's a football cliche, next man up. That's the kind of the exciting thing about this team, is they aren't top-heavy, that if an injury happens here or there, I really trust the depth of this team. That's a shout-out to Joe Douglas, who we also ran into last night.
Yeah, no doubt. Look, the depth on this team is as good as it's probably been since 2010. And there's a reason why we look at this Jets team and we say this is their best team since 2010. I think the depth, while not perfect everywhere, no team is perfect, they are talented. And they have blue-chip players. They have 5 players in the top 100 in the NFL list. So this is a good football team. I'm not sitting here predicting anything, but I'm going to sit here and tell you right now, this should be a playoff team and should be a team that can compete for the AFC East.
I know you're not predicting anything, but I'm going to
I'm
immediately.
not Joe Namath. I don't guarantee things.
That's right. Which again, it's hard to one up Broadway Joe Namath, the Pro Football Hall of Famer as well, who also was enshrined on this very field just a handful of years ago. My question is this: everyone else is talking Super Bowl. This is a team that hasn't been to the playoffs in 12 years. There's no North American sports team that has been out of the playoffs longer than the Jets. Should we be talking Super Bowl? Should the national media and all these people be talking Super Bowl with the Jets, or is it too much too soon?
Talk about it, right? You want to set goals. I believe in you articulate them, you talk about it. But we as fans can't sit here and pretend like if they go out there and they win the division, or they go to the AFC Championship game and they lose, that it's somehow this disgrace of a season. They lose to Mahomes in Kansas City, right? Like I think you should have high expectations. You should have minimum expectations of this has to be a playoff team. They have to end the longest playoff drought in American sports, as you brought up, and they have to go out there and give us a reason to believe in this organization going forward. As much as I like Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh, they got to win. I think we all understand that. But the expectation should be high. They won 7 games. They have a top 5 defense from a year ago. You bring 9 starters back, and you add one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time who still has a lot left. So expectations should be high. Rex said it best on Hard Knocks in 2010. The best place to be is when expectations are high. Last year we were under the radar. F that. Yeah, last year the Jets were under the radar, and that 6-3 start was great. But now the bar has been raised when you bring in Aaron Rodgers. So I'm not going to sit here and say it's Super Bowl or bust because that's not fair. But this better be a playoff team. This better be a team that's, you're playing its best ball with an opportunity to win games late into January, into, dare I say, February.
Yeah, I definitely want to wrap up with Hard Knocks, but one more on Aaron Rodgers. I'm only thinking about this year because, this year is all that matters. But Aaron Rodgers has dropped the most recent of hints that 3 or 4 seasons potentially could be on the table for Rodgers. Can you wrap your mind around it? Is that something that it can happen? Because for me, when the Aaron Rodgers rumors and everything started last year, I was thinking, well, if we get him for 1 year, that'd be great. One run. It sounds like there is very much legitimately at least 2, if not 3 or 4.
God help us, please. Please.
Blessed be he.
As many as he wants to play, I think we're on board with. Look, I always felt when they made the deal it was going to be at least 2 years. So the fact that he's insinuating 3 or 4, it's like, God, man. I please. And obviously, look, he talked about how his body's got to be healthy and he's got to be able to still think he can play at a high level because, Aaron Rodgers is not going to be a guy that's like hanging on at the end of his career.
Middle quarterback? No, I don't think so.
No way. So he's only going to play if he's, the Aaron Rodgers of old. And I think he still has at least 2 or 3 good years left. So I think it's possible. Look, I think a lot of that depends on how this year goes. Like if they're a good team, maybe they come up short. I think he comes back for another year. And people have asked, well, what if they win the Super Bowl? I mean, Tom Brady could have walked out after winning the Super Bowl. He played 2 more years after that. So I think Rodgers, if he's having a great time like he seemingly is, the team is good like we expect them to be. I could see 2 or 3 years, definitely 2. I think we definitely could see at least a 3rd year. Maybe, who knows? If we get a 4th year, I mean, you talk about the return on that trade that people said, overpay, he's only going to play 1 year. Well, you look like an absolute clown if he ends up playing 2, let alone 3. Come on now. Talking about you, Ross Tucker. Talking about you, Jason Lockenfora. So, those guys will never own up to their bozo takes, which is fine. And I happen to actually like Ross, but, man, ripping the Jets for everything. It's a sad tale as old as time. It's not the same old Jets anymore. Now, look, they got to prove it. They got to win. But this is the most confident I think the Jet fan has felt about their team in probably 13 years.
Well, speaking of Ross Tucker, just because this has turned into a dunking Ross Tucker session, he's the same one that made fun of the Jets for not going after Broderick Jones, although the documentary One Jets Drive, which was Flight 23 and part of the draft series, they didn't have Broderick Jones as the next guy to go. So all this Joe Douglas was caught with his pants down. The picks were weighing out. That's what you know what, Jake, I know it's hard to believe. Every once in a while, me and you are wrong. I'm more than willing to eat the yell and dive on the grenade and admit it. Some of these guys that you've mentioned have refused to they just ignore it like it's never happened.
Oh, yeah.
That sort of stuff bothers me.
Dude, just get ready for this. If the Jets, God willing, actually were to win a Super Bowl this year, let's say they win 35-31.
Sure.
Jason Lockenfora's big takeaway from the game is going to be, well, the defense allowed too many points. and so just get ready for that, man. Like, let the hate inspire you, Jet fans. In fact, any Jet fan who's annoyed by all the hate and all that, just keep track, keep the receipts, as Salah would say. And then when the Jets end up being a good team, God willing, we'll take their tears and we'll drink them on the air together. Can't wait.
Tasty. All right, let's wrap up with this. Hard Knocks next week. We have obviously.
I was trying to get in it. I was walking on the field. I was like, Hard Knocks. Hey.
Do you think you made it?
I don't think I made it.
I see.
But
Okay.
I tried.
Okay.
I did give it the old college try.
Well, we got One Jets Drive on Monday, which, by the way, I've been laughing with the Jets people behind the scenes because obviously they did that on purpose to stick it back to Hard Knocks. They will get the first crack. They will get the first say of things on Monday, and we have Hard Knocks on Tuesday as we're recording this Hall of Fame week. That'll be coming up on Monday, Tuesday. Is there something you're looking forward to? Is there something that's revved your engine? I've seen all the trailers. I'm hooked. I'm sold.
Man, there's so much. I wonder, are they going to include last night in the first episode? Probably not, because think about it. There's been so much that has happened since they just reported the camp with the Sean Payton stuff and the Dalvin Cook stuff. Now you have a game. There's not enough time in the episode, so I think the first episode is going to be probably like stuff that happened 2 weeks ago already, and we'll kind of gradually build from there. But I mean, I'm excited for everything, man. And I think One Jets Drive and Hard Knocks, they're similar in that they give you inside access, but they're going to be different in what they cover. And as someone who's a diehard fan, like I know you are, I think we're going to really enjoy watching both.
And to be honest, I think the presence of Hard Knocks is going to step up One Jets Drive's game. Not that I think it needed it. It's been really good, but they're going to step up. Hard Knocks is going to step up. It's great for the fans because ultimately they're the winner in all of this. Let's wrap up with this. Hall of Fame ceremonies. Klecko, Revis, they're going in. It's hard because today's Friday. Obviously, the ceremonies will be tomorrow. Can you predict what the feelings and emotions will be both for, because we're getting polar opposites. Revis getting in first ballot, which is an elite class of itself. Anyone's a Hall of Famer that gets in, but if you get in first ballot, it's a special case. And on the other side, Klecko, 30 years. It's weird to see that juxtaposition of those guys going in.
Yeah, and both guys obviously deserve. I mean, Klecko should have been in. We know this.
Of course.
It was long overdue, so I'm so happy for him and his family. And the Jet fans really of that era that, like, yes, those teams did not win a championship, but they were good, man. They made the playoffs. They had, tremendous success in certain years. And to see Joe Klecko kind of represent that era and find out last night that the entire Sack Exchange crew is making the trip, you're so happy for them. So that's awesome. And then, the aspect of Revis, I mean, pound for pound, probably the best football player I've ever watched in his prime. So both guys incredibly deserving of the honor. And I can't wait to see the speeches tomorrow. It's going to be awesome.
All right, Jake, of course. How could I not present the microphone here? Present and promote all your platforms and everything you got going on. Feel free.
Man, Jet fans, you can find me on YouTube. Just my name, Jake Asman, Asman. You'll find daily Jets coverage there. If you want Jets coverage away from YouTube, Twitter and Instagram at Jake Asman. Looking forward to spending the rest of the weekend with this guy here in Canton, Ohio.
Well, thanks, everybody. I want to thank you guys for tuning in for this live show. It's so cool to do all this live content. We're hoping to do some more with Jake. And Jake will be doing some tomorrow after the Hall of Fame ceremonies. Guys, make sure you guys are liking the videos, hitting subscribe, and following everywhere. We appreciate you. You guys take care. Enjoy the Hall of Fame ceremonies. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you next time here on the channel.